Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting and talented performers who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Janey Godley, and seated on my left, Gyles, Brandreth and Joe Lycett. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the BBC tent, as it's called, up here during the Edinburgh International Festival. It's a place called Potter Row, and we have a lovely, excited festival audience in front of us. Yes. Just dying for us to get started. So, Joe Lycett, will you take the first subject? And it is street performers. Will you talk about street performers in this game starting now?
I enjoy watching street performers because I like seeing children not quite but nearly die. There are quite a few performers...
Paul challenge.
A repetition of quite.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It's so hard, this game, isn't it?
So, Paul, that was a correct challenge.
Yes.
You have the subject. There are 49 seconds available. Street performers starting now.
It's this time of year in Edinburgh where street performers are up and down every single street that you can see. They are juggling painted clowns' faces, pushing toy dogs, making cartwheels, mailing down the main street. There's all kinds of physical activities they get up in order to grab your attention. Some are auditioning for shows that they want you to come and see. They say, this is the best performance appearing in the capital this year. And you say, capital? Are you sure? That's capital 3 times. 3 times I said capital. Not twice, but 3. It's good.
Gyles, you challenge first.
Oh, he pointed out, Paul,
Yes.
that he'd repeated capital.
Yeah.
And so I caught it. Yes, it was
Yes.
a repetition of capital.
It was.
Yeah.
It was capital repeated.
That's quite correct, but I
Yeah.
didn't know you had to go into such detail to explain it to us.
I'll cut straight to the point.
Right.
Yes.
Repetition.
Right.
Of capital.
Correct. 24 seconds are still available. Gyles, tell us something about street performers starting now.
Street is a beautiful village in Somerset on a wonderful river. And there it was that I learnt to do folk dancing. I was known as the Morris Miner. That was a droll title for me, and I became a street performer as a small child. Observed, I noticed, by somebody called Joe, hoping that I might be killed by one of the other people in the entertainment. There was a fellow dressed...
Paul, you challenged just before the whistle.
I'm trying to work out what year we're in. If Joe's looking upon you as a child performer... I think it's deviation. I don't think chronology. I think we're in the wrong decade, aren't we?
I
Wrong
think
century.
The deviant is Joe wanting to see me die.
So, Paul, your challenge is a...
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a challenge, do you?
Well, it was lovely hearing from
was
you.
lovely,
You got
yeah.
a good few laughs, but it was deviation in the sense that his chronology, his year, was wrong. He was speaking under context.
Maybe he's got Benjamin Button syndrome.
I think I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Paul.
Oh, there's a bit of luck.
But Paul, I've
Giles
also...
must be the most popular Conservative left in Scotland, I imagine.
The joy about being in Scotland is they're not aware of what the concept of Conservative is here.
It's 'cause we ran them out.
So, Paul, I've also got to tell you, you've only got 1.5 seconds to go.
Oh, really?
Yes. Street performers starting now.
One ball flew.
So, Paul Merton was speaking then as the whistle went, getting that extra point. He's moved forward. He's second place now. Gyles is still in the lead, and Janey and Joe are trailing a little. And Gyles, we're with you to begin. And the subject is going off the rails. Something I'm sure you do quite frequently, but talk about it if you can. Starting now.
I maintain my life on the straight and narrow because of the drugs that I am given by my doctor. He keeps me on the rails. Occasionally, I forget to...
Oh, Paul challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
The subject's going off the rails, and you're talking about going on the rails. One's off, one's on, you see what I mean?
I was about to explain about when the doctor went away and how consequently I went off the rails, but I agree. I began on the rails. You can't really go off them until you're on them.
No, I think it's a fair challenge. So,
There was also a repetition of on, because he said he's on drugs and on the rails.
It's a bit late now, Joe. But when you hear that, press your buzzer.
Yeah.
A repetition of on.
Give him a bonus point.
Yay!
Right. But yours was the correct challenge, Paul. 50 seconds available, going off the rails, starting now.
It's always been a major problem for any kind of train manufacturer to make sure that their engines stay very much on the rails, but they do go off. There was a terrible disaster. I got in there quickly, didn't I, Giles? There was a terrible disaster happened about 45 years ago. Who can forget the terrible times of Bishop's Storm?
Joe, challenge.
Repetition of terrible.
Oh, yes.
Yes, there was.
Yes.
Well, listen, Joe. Right. So, Joe, you're getting the idea. There are 34 seconds available. You tell us something about going off the rails, starting now.
The worst time I went off the rails is when I consumed in one day 3 packets of halloumi. It was a great occasion for me. I am a big fan of that cheese. I had it with some spring onions and a little bit of tomato. It was quite a difficult day. Another
Giles,
great...
challenge.
A repetition of day.
Yes, you went off the day.
not
Right,
quite-
Giles, you've got him with 10 seconds to go. And you've got going off the rails, starting now.
I was on a wonderful chuff, then repeat the word, going around the wonderful place called...
Paul, challenge.
It's hard to believe, but Giles has been too wonderful.
Yes.
Repetition of wonderful.
Yes, correct challenge, Paul. And you've got going off the rails as a subject. 5 seconds still available, starting now.
Isambard Kingdom Brunel looked at his chief engineer and said, "That train..."
So at the end of that round, Giles Brandreth is still in the lead, 1 point ahead of Paul Merton and 2 or 3 ahead of Joe Lycett and Janey Godley. Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject, my Edinburgh tattoo. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
If I was to undo my top shirt now, you would see a tattoo of Nicholas Parsons in all his glory, water skiing.
Giles, challenge.
I'm ready to sacrifice the point to get him to take off his shirt and show us this tattoo.
I shall let the audience here judge whether I have a tattoo of Nicholas Parsons water skiing on my chest. If I have, I'll show you. You say yes. If I haven't, you'll say no, OK? This is up to you.
Oh,
I didn't see it.
Well, yeah, I'm not doing it again.
So it was there, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was there, yeah.
I didn't know you went in for such things.
No, I didn't know
Paul.
it myself, to be honest.
Anyway, it's got a point for you. 54 seconds are still available. My Edinburgh tattoo, Paul, starting now.
As people here who live in Edinburgh are aware, the tattoo takes place every year at the castle, and I've often stood outside and listened to the cheering and wondered what was going on. You hear there's stories of soldiers dismantling Labradors and putting them back together again and throwing them out of burning buildings, and these big heroic acts are fantastic to see, and people travel all around the world to see this.
Giles, challenge.
Third C.
Third
Yes,
C,
yes. Right. So, Giles, you've got him with 32 seconds on this subject. It's my Edinburgh tattoo, starting now.
I'd like to show you my Edinburgh tattoo, but I don't really think you would want to view it because...
Joe, challenge.
I would like to see it.
Me too.
And Janey wants to see it as well.
Well, later. It's rather intimate.
Change my mind.
When he's relaxed, the tattoo says Ed. When he's not relaxed, it says Edinburgh Borough Council.
Moving quickly on.
No, I'd like to give out 3 bonus points to all of them there because they've got so wonderful laughs. No, it doesn't matter now. Yeah. Oh, give 1 to all of them except Giles, because he's still got the subject. No, because you haven't shown your tattoo. You've got 26 seconds still, though.
Do you know, the BBC is fighting for its life, Nicholas, and this is what you are. This is what you are doing.
Giles, do you know what a Glasgow tattoo is? It's when you go through there and tell them you're a Tory.
Right. Giles.
Yes.
You've still got the subject. 26 seconds. My Edinburgh tattoo starting now.
It's quite extraordinary to me how popular tattoos have become, and people who are in the industry of creating tattoos must be making a fortune. My Edinburgh tattoo, in fact, symbolises the Black Sabbath movement.
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of tattoos.
Oh, yes, in the plural.
Yeah.
Because
I
my
thought so.
Edinburgh tattoo is on the card. So, Paul, you've got him with 16 seconds to go on my Edinburgh tattoo, starting now.
When I joined the ballet class, they gave me a small pink skirt. I said, what's that? He said, that's your Edinburgh tattoo. I said, it looks gorgeous. I put it on around. My legs strode out towards the horizon. And I realised then this was my destiny. I wanted to be inked with sailors. I wanted something on my shoulders that said to me, I was a man.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point, and he surged forward. He's ahead of Giles Brandreth now, and a few more points ahead of Joan Lycett and Janey Godley in that order. And Janey, it's your turn to begin. And this is a subject which is very indicative of Scotland, which is golf. The home of golf is, of course, St Andrews. And we'd like you to take the subject of the best thing about golf.
The best thing about golf is taking the stick and running through the streets of Glasgow and whacking people out the way that don't move when you're trying to get down the escalator, through the shopping mall, standing chatting. You've got the golf stick. You can take them out. Folk, just look at me.
Giles, challenge.
Repetition of stick.
And folk.
Well, all right, Giles, a correct challenge. You get a point for that. Give Janey a point because she spotted her repetition as well. And there are 40 seconds available, Giles, for the best thing about golf, starting now.
The best thing about golf, in my view, is that the word is an anagram of flog. As far as I am concerned, golf is a good walk sport.
Oh, Paul challenge.
Sort of hesitation.
And we call that a stumble, so we interpret it as hesitation. So you've got the subject now, Paul, and there are 37 seconds available. The best thing about golf, starting now.
I've recently started taking up the sport of golf. I've bought some clubs and I've wandered around the course many times now, and I think to myself there is something remarkably pleasant about walking out early in the morning. The kingfisher...
Oh, yes, Joe, you challenge.
Is it repetition of walking?
That's right,
Oh,
you
yes,
were walking, yes. Well, listen, Joe, another point to you. It's all gone very quiet. Lift it up. The best thing about golf, starting now.
I would argue the best thing about golf is the outfits. You have some lovely hats, some smashing trousers when you go and play a bit of golf, and this is the only thing that is good about it, for it is a tedious game.
Giles challenge.
Hesitation after the repetitions of some.
I'm actually just coming up to Scotland and saying it's a tedious game. No wonder you paused. This is the home of golf up here in Scotland.
Oh, I don't know
St
anything
Andrews.
about the sports.
I know, it was pretty obvious in the way you were talking. Anyway, Giles, correct challenge. 8 seconds are still available. The best thing about golf, starting now.
The best thing about golf is getting lost in a bunker with my friend Joe. We have a glorious time scrabbling about in the sand, looking for the balls.
So Giles Brandreth will then speak as the whistle went and gain that extra point, and he's moved forward again, and he's now equal with Paul Merton and trailing our Joe Lycett and Janey Godley. And Joe, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is Darby and Joan. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Darby and Joan is a phrase, I believe, for a couple who are happily married quite quietly and not making a big deal of it. Dullards, as you might say. I know a few of these. I went to school with some, and I will name and shame them now. Martin and Debbie. I don't care how you slept, Debbie.
Giles challenge.
Repetition of Debbie.
Yes,
but I want to hear how the story ends. Because we may not be able to go to the relate meeting. We need to know now.
So do you want him to carry on?
I want him to carry on.
Well, you get a point for a correct challenge, but you generously give it back to Joe. And he
Thank you, but I don't know what else to say.
37 seconds, Joe. Darby and Joan starting now.
Another couple that I find quite boring.
Paul challenge.
Couple.
Repetition of couple.
Yeah, you had too many couples.
God for that.
34 seconds, Paul. Darby and Joan starting now.
My friend Joan was a huge fan of Derby County. Ever since Brian Clough became the manager in the 1970s, she would go to every single home game at the baseball ground, and Joan would say to me, what I love about Derby County is that they play a kind of football that I can understand. They start from the back, play forward through...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of play.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
that's
yes,
right,
there's
yes.
too much play there.
Yeah,
well, listen,
absolutely,
Giles.
yeah.
19 seconds are still available. You have another point, and you have Darby and Joan. You don't have them, but you have the subject. Starting now.
Darby wrote a poem about his wife. Late last night, I slew her. Later on the parquet flooring, I was loath to take her life, but I had to stop her snoring. This was because she was a woman who pretended to be loving, but in fact was a termagant. The story dates from 1735.
Right, so Giles Brandreth, who speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's moved forward. He's just ahead of Paul Merton and Joe Lycett and Janey Godley in that order. And Giles, we're back with you to begin. And the subject here, you've got so many records you've held, but this subject is the record I'd like to break. Have you got any thoughts? Anyway, make them up. If not, 60 seconds, starting now.
The record I'd like to break is probably one by Frank Ifield. I find the yodeling really does get on my nerves. And though it is a collector's item, a 78, the time has come for me to smash it into little pieces. I have an early Cliff Richard as well that I would quite like to break, but I have a feeling for that man, so maybe I will restore that one to my collection. I have broken a number of records in the sense that maybe you mean, Nicholas, and the one I would like to break again is my osculatory marathon record. I sustained the longest screen kiss in the history of British television in 1983 when I placed my lips upon those of Anne Diamond and we munched and spewed away.
Janey, you challenged.
It was making me physically sick.
Where do you think Anne Diamond fell?
Poor Anne Diamond.
So, Janey, yes, I agree with us by being sick. A correct challenge, and
Excuse me, what was the challenge? This occurred? It's on YouTube?
Deviation from common decency.
I don't believe you had a long kiss with Anne Diamond.
You can actually, I mean, are you
There
familiar?
was a bit of hesitation.
Go to
as
YouTube,
well.
you can see it when I did it with Anne Diamond, then I did it with a girl from Bucks Fizz. Yeah, you can. I bet you know you can. You get it now. Show it to them. He showed them his tattoo.
Yes.
I am ready to show the longest ever screen kiss.
Where was it? In a film or a play? or
No,
what?
it was on TVAM. The first time, unfortunately, it was on Valentine's Day, 1983. We were interrupted by live coverage.
Repetition of 1983.
Yeah.
But we're outside the game at the moment, Joe.
I'm going to carry one of
You're
these
trying-
around with you for the
you're
rest of my
trying-
life.
You can have a bonus point for that. Yeah.
Yay!
The record had been held by Regis Toomey and Jane Wyman, who kissed for 2 minutes in the film You're in the Army Now in 1942. This was the anniversary of that occasion, and Anne Diamond and I, on TVAM, attempted to break this record. Unfortunately, live coverage of President Brezhnev's funeral in Moscow
was considered more romantic.
Yes. Giles, you clearly haven't been watching the films I've been watching, but there's been quite a lot of tight kisses happened. And they lasted very long.
Yeah, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Jenny.
Yeah.
And there we are. She was a popular decision. And so 14 seconds are still available, Janey. The record I'd like to break starting now.
The record I would like to break is being tied in a cupboard with George Clooney. He would have gaffer tape round his ankles and his hands. I would be kissing him deeply. There would be no noise, padded cell, people outside with no bare witness.
So Janey Godley was then speaking as the whistle went, and she got that extra point for doing so. And with others in the round, she has surged forward. She's still in fourth place, but she's surged. She's very close to Joe Lycett in points, but Paul Merton and Giles Brandreth are out in the lead. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is Cologne. Tell us something about Cologne in this game starting now.
Well, I drink it by the pint. I can't get enough of it. I like getting up in the morning, going to the bathroom cabinet, opening up the bottle of cologne and straight down my throat. I'm on about 6 or 7 of them a day now, and it's absolutely fantastic because you get completely drunk, but you smell really nice. So my favourite cologne, undoubtedly, is Eau de Joie. It is a French concoction, initially Monsieur Bourgeois of the Guadalajara Valley, invented this magnificent perfume when he was out herding his goats one day, and he thought to himself, if I could get a combination of those animals and an after-eight mint put into one great big snort, Imagine the money I would make. Well, it wasn't long before all the Puthermiers came round to his house and said, "Oh, was that funny smell?" So wait till I show you. And he opened up the back bedroom, and there was Cologne like nobody had ever seen in their lives. Men started putting it behind their ears. Women drunk it like it was going out of fashion. And suddenly, out of the corner of their eye, a small man came forward. He said, "I will introduce myself. My name is Kurt van der Dahl. I am from Berlin. I am willing to offer you as much money as you would like."
This doesn't often happen in the show. Someone starts with the subject and goes with flamboyance and panache and...
I thought it was a boring subject at first, but I was completely wrong.
Anyway, you did it magnificently. The audience loved it. You get a point for speaking when the whistle went, and you get a bonus point because you were not interrupted. 60 seconds on his own. Well done. And Janey, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is staples. Tell us something about staples in this game, starting now.
Staples are my favourite tiny miniature piece of metal. Many times I've sat pulling them out of pieces of paper. Twice I've eaten them. 3 times I've choked on them. Once I even put them inside my ear and the doctor said, "Janey, yet again with the staples." Loving the staples inside my ear, and nobody ever...
Joe challenged, yes.
Repetition of ear?
Yes. So, Joe, you've got in on the subject of staples, and there are 43 seconds available, starting now.
I buy my pens while standing up. I procure them stationary.
Paul, sound.
Repetition of stationery.
Stationary.
Well, no, see, I was going with...
Yes, I know what you're going
stationary with my stationery.
It's a homophone.
Yeah, it's actually spelt
It's a
differently.
word I
with
thought
an-
you'd recognise.
It's a word... So, hang on, but stationary spelt with an A.
And then with an E.
And then with an E.
It's a homophone. They sound the same.
So that's allowed. They're
Because we
different
don't
words.
know how you spell... We
Yeah,
don't
but,
know...
Joe, the subject is staples.
I was trying it as a trick, you see, and
See,
it's
if
really
you-
failed.
If you...
It was too clever by half. I used to do that sort of thing when I was your age. It doesn't work.
And, Paul, that was a correct challenge. You have 39 seconds. You tell us something about staples, starting now.
I suppose there is a certain fascination with them, those little bits of metal stuck in the middle of books. And you see sometimes people like Janey next to me says she used to undo the pieces and try and make them perhaps one long, thin piece of wire. Eventually, I suppose that's what a staple was. Initially, when it came into the world, God looked down at this little thing and said, "What are you? I want to be a staple." The Almighty looked and said, "Do you really?" "Yes." "Tell me about Cologne." "When that was invented?" "Yes." "There was a man who walked in and said, 'I am the Johnson of Berlin. I will give you the money for it.'" What up,
Charles, you've challenged.
Deviation. We moved on to Cologne. I was loving the staple stuff. So good. It was such a rich scene there that he was... But the Cologne...
Didn't feel like it from where I was.
No, it was deviation.
Absolutely.
And Giles, you've got in with 8 seconds to go on staples, starting now.
I once made a beautiful staple necklace, taking the stapler and attaching each of the staples one to the other so that it formed a circle that I gave...
So, Giles Brandreth, who's speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point and has always taken the lead again. He's one ahead of Paul Merton, and Joe Lycett and Janey Godley are catching up behind them. And Joe, we're back with you to begin, and the subject now is the producers. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The Producers is a musical that was performed at the Palace Theatre in Manchester a few years ago. I was working there as an usher and found that the audience there could not understand that the spoon was in the lid of the ice cream. It wasn't underneath it or beside it, and it made me livid. I told people countless times, just have another look, and that most of the time they then found it. But...
Giles. Well, you went for 32 seconds.
Oh, can I have a bonus point?
Yeah, won't make any difference to the result. Just give him a bonus point. Give Janey one as well. For Gyles, you get one for a correct challenge.
Acknowledged hesitation.
Yes, 28 seconds available, starting... Oh, the subject is The Producers, starting now.
The Producers is a glorious show done on Broadway and in the West End, as well as Manchester, of course. Zero Mostel is the person I originally recall from appearing in it. I absolutely loved this entertainment. I've been a producer myself, and not a successful one at all. Nobody seemed to want to come to the devices that I put onto the stage. People think that what I do isn't interesting. Don't ask me why, but people have lost a great deal.
Oh, yes.
People.
Paul challenge.
Too many people.
Too many people, yes.
Yes, it was too near the knuckle.
And you've got him with 1 second to go, Paul.
Oh, well.
Tell us something about The Producers, starting now.
Springtime!
Gyles Brandreth and Paul Merton are back equal in the lead. And Joe Lycett and Janey Godley are equal in second place. Oh, you do love the points, don't you? Right. We've got time for one more round. And Gyles, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is High Fliers. 60 seconds if you want them, starting now.
High Fliers. Many years ago, when I was a young actor, I essayed the role of Peter Pan in the play by the great Sir James Barrie. What a high flyer I became. As attached to a wire supplied by the firm of Kirby, I soared into the air at the Lyceum Theatre. There was a great actor called Sir Donald Sindon playing the part of Captain James Hook. Floriat Titona.
Paul challenge.
Sadly, a repetition of James.
Yes.
We had James Barry.
James Barrie, yes.
No,
yes,
correct.
yes.
Very good.
And if our listeners can hear a funny noise in the background,
It's a high flyer.
it's not anybody's insides rumbling up here or in the audience. Somebody who couldn't get tickets for the show and is now circling around in a helicopter. And Paul, you've got the subject. You have a correct challenge. And 34 seconds, starting now.
Nicholas Parsons has his cocaine delivered by helicopter when he's at the Edinburgh Festival. And this is a magnificent arrangement for him because he doesn't have to leave the tent. Basically, at the end of the recording, he just sticks his hand out, a great big package lands, and he says, "Thank you very much." And you'll find that the second show goes a lot quicker than the first. That's why that recording will be known as Just a Second rather than what this one is here. And once he's got it inside him, you can't stop him. The devil's powder up his nose. He marches up and down the Royal Mile. He's like a man 30 years younger, if you can imagine somebody 96. And he's just a beautiful thing of a man as he strides, showing his muscles. He's a high flyer.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went. And we've come to the end of this edition of Just a Minute. Janey Godley and Joe Lycett, who haven't played so much, came equal in third place, but they didn't quite catch up Gyles Brandreth and Paul Merton. And Paul finished up 3 points ahead of Gyles Brandreth, so we say he is the winner this week. I thank Hayley Sterling for helping with the score and blowing her whistle so well. We thank our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're deeply indebted to this lovely audience here at the Potter Road tent and the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, tune in again, the same time, when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, and also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented performers who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Susan Calman, and seated on my left, Julian, Clary, and Josie Lawrence. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me, Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score, run the stopwatch, and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show with Susan Calman. Susan, the subject I got in front of me is a room with a view. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I've always wanted a room with a view because of my childhood days. I was the youngest of 3 children, and because I was an accident, I'll say, I was made a bedroom out of an ironing cupboard. It had a small window right at the top of the eaves from where I could see the pigeons nesting and mating, and it was essentially dark all the time in my tiny little Harry Potter-like cupboard that I lived in.
Paul challenge.
Did we have cupboard before?
I think we did have
Yes,
cupboard
you did
twice.
have a cupboard.
We did have
You talked
cupboard
about the
twice. I
cupboard,
accept
yes,
that
you-
challenge. That's entirely
You're very honest,
correct.
Susan. But,
I knew it as I said it, but I just carried on because I'm having such a lovely time. I'll just say cupboard all the time now because it's quite a lovely word.
well,
cupboard.
sometimes you can carry on and they don't always spot it.
Well, I felt Paul moving and I acknowledged with my body. I thought, I've done it, I acknowledge. I opened up and acknowledged. It's the way
So
I
when
think
Paul moves, you feel it in your body.
when Paul moves, I feel it right inside my soul.
Exactly.
A correct challenge then, Paul.
Yes.
You get a point for that, of course, in this game, and you take over the subject, and there are 29 seconds available. A room with a view starting now.
A room with a view, and you, with no one to hurry us. And the rest of it is written by Noel Coward, of course, a magnificent songwriter from the 1930s.
Julian, Clary challenge.
Well, it's all written by Noel Coward, not the rest of it.
Julian, I think that's what he was conveying, though if you want to be
Oh, I'm sorry, you
pedantic-
said the rest of it, as if the first bit was written by, I don't know, Larry Grayson or something.
No, I think he conveyed to us that the whole thing was written by Noel Coward. But we enjoyed the interruption. Give him a bonus point for that. But Paul gets a point for being interrupted. He keeps the subject. There are 19 seconds available, Paul. A room with a view starting now.
Opposite my window is Brixton Prison, and someone, I don't know who, has dug a tunnel from E-wing to the back of my fridge. Prisoners jumping out of there all hours of the morning. Half of them want minicabs. Now, this was a piece of stand-up I used to do in the 1980s when the view from my room was very much of the aforementioned hospitality establishment that I had previously measured up.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. And Paul, you get a point, and you've taken the lead at the end of the round. And it's Josie. Would you begin the next round?
Yeah.
Oh, Sellotape. A rather straightforward.
Oh, I
Paul,
love the way you say sellotape.
Well, what do you say?
Sellotape. It should be sellotape.
Sellotape.
It is sellotape.
It's sellotape, but
Sellotape on the
where I
BBC.
come from, we say sellotape.
Well, you're from the Midlands, aren't you, darling? Originally, yes. You pronounce it any way you wish, darling, but
Thank you.
I say sellotape, and you have 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
Sellotape is a wonderful thing. I keep mine in my bits and bobs drawer, and it usually comes out at Christmas or birthdays. Friends say I wrap presents and they look like a bag of chips, and that's because of sellotape. I normally rip it off. It's adhesive tape, by the way, clear-sided and sticky on the other side. And I...
Oh, Julian challenge.
Oh, well, I think I was wrong. I was going to say repetition of side, but it was sided and then side.
No, it was sticky on one side and on the other side.
Oh, there was repetition of
Yes,
side.
it was.
Nicholas! He thought he was in the wrong then.
I know he did. But I've got to be
He's-
fair when the rules are just a minute, otherwise
Suppose.
people write to me.
He's all hearing.
I think there were 2 sides, weren't there, Josie?
Yes.
So, Julian, you've got him with 37 seconds to go on Sellotape, starting now.
Sellotape has lots of uses. When I do one of my lovely shows, I'm inclined, for no particular reason, to wear a lot of makeup and glitter. If you want to remove that from your face, take your sellotape, stretch it sticky side up, and then press it, sort of pout and push it against your lips, and the glitter will come off in one big swoop. Otherwise, if you use ordinary cleanser and push it around...
Paul challenge.
A slight hesitation.
I think it was. It was really struggling to demonstrate what was going on. I'll explain to the listeners, it was full of demonstration, that particular diatribe was.
How rude.
Well, no, but this is what we do in this. We use anything to keep going. I was fascinated, actually. It was all the physical
It was a good
gestures.
tip.
Yes, but taking notes. Nicholas was
Yes.
taking notes.
Yeah, yeah. It was all the physical gestures that went with it.
Have you ever worn glitter,
And
Nicholas?
glitter, yes.
Have you?
Are you going to use sellotape tonight after the show or not?
Not wearing any glitter today. This is my natural, just a touch of raspberry lip balm in case I get peckish.
which was a correct challenge. So you have 11 seconds on Sellotape starting now.
When I go down to the shop to buy my Sellotape, I make sure I'm wearing raspberry lip balm. The man behind the counter says to me, I know what you'll be wanting. I say, yes, it's Friday night and I want me Sellotape.
So Paul Merton was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. And he's moved forwards. He's increased his lead. Julian, Clary, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject now is recharging your batteries. Can you tell us something about that and even type it down? Pause for a second. Recharging your batteries, starting now.
There's lots of ways to recharge your batteries. You might just go for the quick nap option, but I prefer to take myself off to the country where I become rustic. I don't wash, I don't shave, I potter about in the garden, and there are chickens, which are very restorative. I'm not talking about eating the poor darlings. I mean just spending time with them. We have a psychic understanding, me and Maureen in particular. I'm not going to go into details, but this is how I am recharging my batteries on a weekly basis. I find as one gets older and more mature, the need for such activity is vastly increased. I used to go for months with all sorts of stimulants in my system, but now, come Friday, I think, oh, rustic life.
Josie challenged.
I'm sorry, that was so close, but it's two rustics.
Yes, you talked about the rustic feel before.
I'm sorry,
yes.
Julian.
That's all right.
That's all right. 7 seconds for you, Josie, on recharging your batteries starting now.
It's absolutely important that you recharge your batteries. A bit like that bunny I'm not sure I'm meant to advertise.
So Josie Lawrence was then speaking as a whistle when again that extra point is equal with Julian in second place behind Paul Merton. And Paul, we're with you to begin. And the subject is now the Leaning Tower of Pisa. A nice cultural subject. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Some say the Leaning Tower of Pisa is straight and it's the earth that's leaning, but actually the architect, Stumpy Giuseppe, was a one-legged man who really had no quite good sense of the perpendicular. This is why the Leaning Tower of Pisa is residing at the angle that it does. Tourists from all over the world come and stare at the Leaning Tower of Pisa. They say things to each other in American accents, even if they're from Sweden. Hey, look at that! That's the Leaning Tower of Pisa! I did mention that was a Yankee voice, but it didn't really sound like it much, did it? Let's pretend that was from Norway. On the other side of the Pisa, you see a magnificent view. The people who live there say...
Josie challenged.
Repetition of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the people who come and look at it, right?
What nonsense it was.
Well, listen. Point for a correct challenge. 23 seconds are still available. The Leaning Tower of Pisa starting now.
Years ago, when I was stupid, I used to think it was the Leaning Tower of Pizza until I went there and realised it was Pisa. Lots of tourists have their photo taken trying to hold it up, but my friend is crap at taking photos, and it looks like I'm doing a Nazi salute. We then went to the souvenir shop where you can buy lots of...
So Josie Lawrence was then speaking as a whistle when again that extra point. She's moved forward. She's 1 point behind her leader, Paul Merton, and ahead of Julian, Clary and Susan Calman in that order. Susan, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject now is the North Sea. Tell us something about that broad subject. There's nothing funny about it. It's a rather heavy subject, but it's... do your best with it, Susan. 60 seconds.
Well, it's not exactly... Try your best, Susan. We're all behind you.
It's not exactly an inspiring subject, is it? But there's plenty to say about it. It's a big sea. 60 seconds available, Susan, starting now.
The North Sea is somewhere near where I live, I understand. I believe when I was on holiday as a child, we used to go on staycations because we didn't have any money. My mother would make me swim in the North Sea without any protective clothing, merely a swimming costume from VHS. Our lips turned blue, but she would shout, "Smile! people will think you're not having fun. We had to stay in the North Sea for upwards of 30 or 40 minutes until we came back in to be towel-dried by a harsh cardboard-like substance that passed for something that was beautifully soft in the 1970s. Since then, I haven't been to the North Sea. I have seen it on television in a show about fishing, where some lovely, robust, ruddy-faced men catch, I suspect, some form of animal that you eat from a can. That may be tuna, or it might be salmon. I'm not exactly an expert.
So Susan Calman started with the subject and went with style and panache for 60 seconds without being interrupted.
I just needed you to believe in me, Nicholas. That's all I needed. Now I know you believe in me. It's the only way is up from now on, Nicholas.
So, Susan, you get a point for speaking as the whistle went, a bonus point for not being interrupted, and you're still in third place alongside Julian Clary. But it's only 1 point behind Josie Lawrence, and 1 point ahead is Paul Merton. It's anybody's game if you're interested in the score. And, Josie, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is hop picking. So, yes, there's two P's together, hop picking. 60 seconds starting now.
2 images come into my head when I think of hop picking. The first takes me back to the playground when Deborah Marsh said, "Will you have a war game of hopscotch?" This meant getting teams together, and I was very good at picking girls with the right hop. Rosemary could do it better on the left than the right, but Sylvia, let's face it, could only jump. She was just terrible.
Julian challenge.
I've had 2 jumps.
Yes.
Oh, did I?
I think so.
Yes. There are 31 seconds, Julian. Hop picking starting now.
Hop picking's always rather appealed to me, out in the fresh air in a field with lots of camaraderie, getting your hands prickly while you hop pick, as the saying goes. And where you go of an evening is anyone's guess, but I guess you sit round a campfire.
Josie challenge.
Repetition of guess.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, really?
Yes.
16 seconds available. Josie, back with you. Hop picking starting now.
Yes, of course. The second thing is hop picking that my ma used to do. Granny used to say, "Come on, we're going on holiday," but it wasn't really a...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of used.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
oh,
it's
a
true.
tough one, that, but it's true.
Oh, I mean, very good.
So,
Very
Julian,
good.
you got in with 5 seconds to go on hop picking starting now.
Hop picking, I love it. I go every summer to a field in Kent.
Paul
We
challenge.
had field before.
You went to the fields before to do your hop
I
picking.
too, I'm always in a field.
So you've got in with half a second to go. And you've got a correct challenge, Paul, of course. Hop picking, half a second to go, starting now.
Hop picking's fantastic.
So Paul Merton squeakers the whistle away and gain that extra point. His increases lead. He's just ahead of Josie Lawrence, Julian Clary and Susan Calman in that order. And Julian, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is, a very cultural one, the Hippocratic Oath. Tell us something about the Hippocratic Oath in this game, starting now.
When I was awarded a doctorate from the University of East Anglia, and I don't like your tone laughing in the third
Paul, you challenge.
Isn't that the equivalent of 25 yards breaststroke? A doctorate from
true.
East Anglia University.
It's true, you Google it. I don't know why they gave me one, but they did. Who am I to refuse?
You're a doctor.
I'm a doctor, yes.
I'm a doctor.
Give you an enema if you want.
But you presumably you're a doctor of laws, not a medical.
I'm a doctor of civil law,
Oh, really?
so I wouldn't actually be qualified.
Yes.
Yes.
Julian, we're still with you.
Thank you.
Incorrect challenge, a point to you. The Hippocratic Oath, 53 seconds, starting now.
When I saw the careers officer at school, he said, well, how's about a life in medicine? And it was the Hippocratic Oath that put me off. I didn't know what it meant. I've since researched the subject, and it's a sort of pledge to be honest and true and do everything properly in the care of your patient. And now I think about it, perhaps I took a wrong path. Camp comic or maybe doctor, nurse.
Josie challenge.
Repetition of doctor.
Yes, you mentioned the doctor before.
Did I?
Think of the lives you've saved by becoming a camp comic.
You're wicked, Paul, but very funny. So, Josie, correct challenge. 26 seconds are still available. The Hippocratic Oath starting now.
The Hippocratic Oath, as Julian has informed us, is something the doctors say when they become a proper doctor after they've been to medical college. Hippocrates apparently was the father of all doctors, and he...
Susan, challenge.
There's been a couple of doctors and doctor.
Yeah,
Yes,
doctor,
things
yes.
like that.
right,
Sorry.
Doctor.
Susan,
Yes?
correct challenge. You have 10 seconds. The Hippocratic Oath starting now.
I am also a doctor, but didn't need to take the Hippocratic Oath because I bought my particular qualification from the back of the National Enquirer, which is a beautiful news...
So Susan Calman was then speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point. She's moved forward. She's 1 point behind Julian, 1 point behind Josie, and he's 1 point behind Paul. 1 point is separating them all in ascending order. Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is Lewis. Tell us something about...
Lewis?
Lewis. Doesn't matter how you spell it, it's the way you pronounce it. Lewis, 60 seconds starting now.
In 1939, there was a radio show called Bandwagon featuring Arthur Askey and Richard Stinker Murdoch, and they lived on the roof of Broadcasting House, the very building we are currently residing in. And they had a goat called Lewis. This is the reason why I'm telling you this. It was one of those made-up animals that listeners believed existed somewhere on the broadcasting air, but indeed it was merely a figment of writers' imagination. When Inspector Morse...
Julian, you challenge.
Well, it took me a while to think about it. But did you say broadcasting
I
twice?
said Broadcasting House and broadcast. I think, broadcasting. Definitely said it twice.
Yes, well admitted, Paul. Thank you. 37 seconds for you. Julian, correct challenge. 37 seconds for you on Lewis starting now.
Lewis is a very pleasant town just outside of Brighton where they've got all like tea shops and wool kind of places where you can buy things to make. Your tank top man in the front row wearing a gingham shirt, I suspect that came from there. Did it? He's smiling at me. It is confirmed. It's that kind of cuddly English place. You, on the other hand, with your legs apart and a hoodie on your lap covering goodness knows what, would not be given the gates of Lewis to share amongst your friends.
Susan, you challenge.
Yes, I did.
Right.
I think it was possibly deviation.
It was deviation. He was
Just-
onto their clothes and not onto the island of Lewis.
Although, Julian, I was enjoying, what he was saying about the audience. Very rarely do we get to evaluate our audience.
I think we could interpret
I
it
like the
as-
tank top, though. I think
yes.
it's very nice.
We'll interpret that as deviation. So, Susan, you have a correct challenge. You have 5 seconds still available. Lewis, starting now.
Lewis is an island off the coast of Scotland, which I have never visited but intend to.
So Susan Calman was then speaking as a whistle went. Susan Calman, Josie Lawrence and Julian Clary are equal in second place, only 1 point behind our leader, who is still Paul Merton. Susan, we're back with you to begin, and what a contrast from Lewis, the island in the Hebrides, which you mentioned, because this subject is a trip to Ikea. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
There is nothing I hate more in this world than a trip to Ikea. In order to set foot in the... Do you know what I was thinking about? Meatballs. Because that's the only thing about Ikea that's worth anything.
They have meatballs at Ikea.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have to assemble them yourself?
Yeah. It's worth it in the end, though. There's always a bit missing, but it's good.
Did you say you can get meatballs at Ikea?
Yes.
It's the only way I can go, because you get gravy and chips and peas if you're feeling healthy.
They make you go a long way in before you can get your meatballs.
Yeah.
Josie, you had a correct challenge.
Yes.
And there are 51 seconds
Food and
available
food.
for a trip to Ikea, starting now.
Do you know I've only ever been to Ikea once, and that was with Harry Enfield after we'd done a bit of filming on something called Norbert Smith Alive, which I think was in the 80s. I haven't been there since, but I've been.
Julian challenge.
You've now been twice.
I know. I have.
Verbally twice, so a correct challenge, Julian. 39 seconds available. A trip to Ikea, starting now.
I love a trip to Ikea. The bathrooms are spotless. Not only can you relieve yourself, you could have a proper freshen up, which will see you through the rest of the day. You can then browse along the aisles. There may be an item you want to take home with you. Who's to say that's wrong? Of course, there are the instructions to deal with. You may have to get a man in, which is what I do. I've got a chap called Glyn who works in the village, and what his toolbox can't take care of is no one's business. A trip to Ikea is a very pleasant Sunday afternoon. It's free to get in, and you meet people.
So Julian Clary was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. And he's taken the lead now, one ahead of all the others. And Josie, it's back with you to begin. And the subject is 1/8. Tell us something about that. You don't have any experience of it, but
no, none at all.
60 seconds starting now.
OK, it's the morning after the night before, and images come into my head of that WI wine and cheese party when I ended up naked and drunk, swinging off the beams of the vicarage hall with a crocheted hat on my head made by Auntie Melissa.
Susan challenged.
Which WI is this?
Budley Salterton.
And how often are the meetings? Just out of... It was just an interest. There's no chance. I just genuinely think that sounds like a really good night out. And I'm down here anyway for a couple of days.
It was a nice interruption. I wonder if we've got a big enough laugh to give you a bonus point or not.
No, I don't think so.
Susan, you play the
guys.
audience. You know how to play the audience. A bonus point to Susan Calman. But you were interrupted, so you get a point. 40 seconds still available. 1/8. Josie, starting now.
Yes, I behaved like a madwoman because I'd had 9 Pinot Grigios. 1/8, which is exactly what that phrase means. Having an extra drink that just tips you over the edge. There's also a mathematical joke about 1/8. Something about the square root is 64, and if you write it down, it sounds like I/8. Anyway, let's drink.
Paul challenge.
Well, it was a hesitation as we had the minute silence.
I said it was a mathematic joke.
It was.
It wasn't funny.
I know, but you did pause afterwards, darling.
I didn't. I went, ha-ha.
Well, that's repetition.
So, Paul, I give it to you. You have 9 seconds. You tell us something about 1/8, starting now.
9 seconds. How remarkably it should be that figure, because 1/8, as Josie has just said, is exactly that.
Oh. Joe, you got it back. And...
Hesitation on exactly.
Yes, darling. You didn't even quite so aggressive about it. It was quite true. 3 seconds, Josie, on another point, of course. 1/8, starting now.
1/8. What a terrible place to be if you're having to...
The whistle hadn't gone.
You're getting quite angry.
Julian, yeah.
No, I'm not. I don't
Julian,
get
you
angry.
challenged just before the whistle.
Hesitation.
Yes.
Oh, I don't think so, was there?
Yes.
Well, the audience... I always bow to the audience, and... well, I always acknowledge the audience. I don't always...
I think I did go a bit off air.
I know you did.
I thought it was great.
Thanks, Susan.
I just took it as kind of a dramatic moment where I was wondering what you were going to say.
So the women are supporting each other, and within the rules of just a minute, you were correct, Julian. So you have a correct challenge. You have a point for that. So there's half a second to go, Julian, on 1/8, starting now.
9 is too many, but...
So Julian Clary was speaking then as the whistle when gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's in the lead, just 1 ahead of Josie Lawrence, and he's 2 ahead of Paul Merton and 3 ahead of Susan Calman. In that order, I mention that fact because we're moving into the last round. So that is the situation as we go ahead. And Julian, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is an Indian summer. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
An Indian summer would be lovely. We've had such a miserable few weeks. I blame the Tories for the weather we have endured. They want us all to be miserable. And, of course, they enjoy putting on their tweeds and marching around their estates. I think we should all storm Parliament and demand our right to an Indian summer. We could spread eagle ourselves on our lawns, a little bit of suntan lotion, and say, isn't it marvellous? We thought autumn had arrived, but no, it's an Indian summer. There is also a restaurant known as an Indian Summer that I have frequented in a lovely place called Lewis, an island off of Scotland, where you can buy any manner of interesting items of clothing that I wouldn't be seen dead in. Let's return to the Indian Summer. There was one, I believe, a few years back, and I'd put all of my garden furniture away.
So Julian and Clary brought the show to an end with style and panache, creased his lead at the end of the round, so the final score, as you probably guessed, in ascending order, was Susan Calman. 1 point only ahead was Paul Merton, 1 point ahead only was Josie Lawrence, and 2 points ahead was Julian Clary. So we say, Julian, you are our winner this week. A popular win. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, exciting, humorous players of the game, Paul Merton, Susan Calman, Josie Lawrence and Julian Clary. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score and blown the whistle with skill at the end of the 60 seconds. We thank our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here. So from our audience and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in again the same time when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Oh, thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Tony Hawkes and Sue Perkins, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Andy Hamilton. Please welcome all 4 of them. And, as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me with the score, and she will blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Shaw Theatre in the Euston Road in the central area of London. Tony, will you take the first subject? The subject I've got here is South Pacific. Tell us something about that subject in this game starting now.
The best thing about the South Pacific has to be the rugby. I love the fact that sport gives us a situation where a giant of a man from Fiji can upend a former public school boy from Woking.
And Sue, you've challenged.
Repetition of from.
Oh, sharp. Is that how it's going to be this week, is it? Right. It's a correct challenge, Sue. You've got the subject. 45 seconds are still available. The South Pacific, starting now.
In the famous musical South Pacific, the song goes, "I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair," implying it's easy. In fact, it's incredibly difficult to remove a gentleman from one's coiffure. They grip. They can cling. I once found Brian Blessed in my quiff. I tell you, 6 months it took to finally get shot of him. I'm not a huge fan of musicals, but this one is particular.
Tony, you challenged.
Yes, repetition of musicals.
Yes, you've mentioned musicals before. So, Tony, you've got your own back and you've got the subject.
Is it okay for members of the audience to help you like that?
He's quick, whoever he is.
Tony, was a correct challenge. You have a point for that, of course, and there are 21 seconds still available. The South Pacific, starting now.
I believe there's an island in the South Pacific where they think Prince Philip is God. And I was wondering whether for one of my...
Andy, you've challenged.
Yeah, he keeps saying the word I.
But Andy, I know you haven't played the game before, but we do let those sort of things go.
But it's pure egoism, Nicholas. The way he keeps jamming him to making himself the
Well,
centre.
Andy, as you've never played the game before,
Yes.
the least I can do is to say, as it was a correct challenge, you have a point for that, and you take over the subject, and there are 11 seconds available, the South Pacific starting now.
South Pacific also includes the famous song Happy Talk, which repeats itself a lot, so I'm not going to do that lyric because I know that one.
Giles, you challenged.
Repetition of lyric?
Yes, you repeated lyric. I'm
I
afraid.
did.
Yes, you did indeed. Right.
Yes.
It's gone very quiet. And I think
How
that's
nice.
because the audience have guessed that you've got in, Giles, with 2 seconds to go. 2 seconds, Giles, on the South Pacific, starting now.
Vanuatu is the name of the little island.
So at the end of that round, everyone has scored points, and Giles has got 2 on the others, because whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gets an extra point.
Giles has actually got a point per second at the moment.
Right, yes.
There's the justice. I
I have to mention
tirelessly.
some of these boring things, even though we have been playing the game for 48 years.
Really? I thought I was just booked for the evening.
And Andy Hamilton, we're with you now. We'd like you to begin the next round. Quite an intelligent subject, but I'm sure you're up to it. And you needn't get laughs if you don't want to. Because the subject is Nelson Mandela. And would you tell us something about Nelson Mandela in this game starting now?
Nelson Mandela is undoubtedly the most iconic political figure of my lifetime, but his name is one that I will always associate with disappointment, because many years ago he came to speak to the Labour conference in Brighton, and that particular evening I was doing the news quiz with the great Linda Smith, and we were partaking of some tea in a little seafront cafe when there was excitement outside, and hubbub and commotion, and we went out to see what was happening, and the cry went up, "It's Nelson Mandela." But unfortunately, I could not see over the heads of the people because I was too short. This has stuck with me for the rest of my life. It is the only moment in my existence when I have truly regretted being of diminutive stature.
And you paused off your diminutive stature. And
I ran out of breath. It's all right for Giles. He's used to talking incessantly, but I'm not.
Oh, we enjoyed that remark. Give him a bonus point for that. Sue, your challenge. Yes, hesitation.
Hesitation.
And you did go
It's
for
exhaustion.
I know,
It wasn't
I
any
know.
play.
We went for 48 seconds, Andy.
I?
Well, yes,
Really?
not bad. Which means you're 12 seconds for you, Sue, on Nelson Mandela, starting now.
After over 20 years of hard labour in Robben Island and other such penitentiaries, Nelson Mandela arrived distraught to discover his face.
Giles, challenge.
Other such penitentiaries, he was in one other penitentiary apart from Robben Island.
2 others? I think he was in 2 others.
I don't think so.
I think he was.
I don't think so.
Listen,
I believe he was moved 3 times in total.
I tell you what, we're not quibbling about a gag here.
Are you saying he'd never been in another holding cell in his life prior to that?
I'm sure he'd been picked up on occasions and put into some sort of cell.
We've all been picked up and put in a cell.
And the thing is, it doesn't really matter. He did go into one other place we know for certain, so it's an incorrect challenge, Sue. So you have a point for that, and you still have 3 seconds, Sue. Nelson Mandela, starting now.
Delighted to be out of this gaff, he exclaimed, and that's fact. Look it up on Wikipedia.
So Sue Perkins will then speaking with the whistle range and gain that extra point. At the end of that round, Andy Hamilton and Tony Hawkes both have 2 points. Sue Perkins has 4. Giles Brandreth has 5. And Tony, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is my favourite bedtime drink. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
I have spent hours thinking about what my favourite bedtime drink might be. Nobody!
Giles, challenge.
Get a life.
Giles, we enjoyed your interruption. Wasn't a correct challenge. A bonus point to Giles for that. But Tony was interrupted, so he gets a point. And he continues with the subject, my favourite bedtime drink. 53 seconds, starting now.
No one should go to the grave without having made a decision on this decisive issue.
Sue challenged.
I will be going to the grave without hearing what his bedtime drink is. If he doesn't get round to it. It was an encouraging interruption rather than anything by the rules of
justice. It wasn't funny enough to get a bonus point.
No. You've become very harsh in your middle age, Nicholas.
Give her a bonus point because she's so lovely, yes. Now, they've all had a bonus point, I think. But, Tony, we're interrupted. 47 seconds available. My favourite bedtime drink starting now.
There are so many options. Ovaltine would be one. There are others too, which don't spring to my mind at the moment. Hot milk, perhaps, or chocolate, which has been heated underneath. Can't use that other word again, so won't bother. Now, whiskey, of course, is something that I would...
Sue, challenge.
Didn't I think of course?
Yes, you did say of course.
I think there's been 2 of courses.
Of course, there are many, you said, at the beginning.
You say that with a lot of confidence, Nicholas.
Yes. I think the temperature dropping in the room has certainly given me the go-ahead I needed.
Do you ever have slow motion action replays?
Yeah,
we
tune in 6 weeks later, and then we become bitter.
Sue, you challenged. 28 seconds available. My favourite bedtime drink starting now.
I've thought often about my favourite bedtime drink, and the response would be this. Vodka, hot chocolate and Largactil, lovingly mixed to perfection, and then sipped at my leisure until I slide into oblivion. Sometimes I will opt for an extra couple of shots of brandy, just to hammer home unconsciousness. But I thoroughly recommend it. Open your medicine cabinet, let it spill forth and apply a liquid of your choice. Turn with a spoon...
Gyles, you challenged.
Hesitation.
No, I don't think so.
Oh. I apologise.
Also, the girl's full of Largactil. She's bound to...
I would have thought all that stuff, Sue, would have kept you awake rather than send you to sleep.
Oh, I have a very strange metabolism, Nicholas.
Sue, incorrect challenge, 3 seconds still available. My favourite bedtime drink starting now.
Malt extract, cough linctus.
At the end of that round, Sue Perkins has taken a lead over the other 3, but not many points ahead. And Sue, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now is conkers. Tell us something about those things that we all love as children to play. Starting now.
Conkers are the inside of a horse chestnut, I believe, but are mainly used for a childhood game. In this, the kernel is removed, a small hole bored through the centre, and a piece of string teased through with the use of a knot.
Tony challenged.
Repetition of through.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, listen, Tony.
Thank God for you. I'd lost myself at horse chestnut.
44 seconds are still available. Tony, the subject is conkers starting now.
If you have a tour and it beats an 8er, you get a 10er. And you can go down the pub and buy a round of drinks. That's what I like about conkers, and I used to play it a lot as a young lad. I would go out onto the road, picking them up off the floor, and I would string...
Andy challenged.
Well, it's sort of deviation from reality. Roads don't have floors, do they? You know, they parkade where you live. It's a very posh area.
I haven't been on the A56 recently. It's full of flaws.
He did repeat I would, didn't he?
He did.
Did he?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Well, there's that as well.
All right, a point to Andy. He takes over the subject. 26 seconds. Conkers, Andy, starting now.
I well remember my first game of conkers. I played it against Basher Biggs, and he cheated and rapped me on the knuckles. I dropped my conker in pain, and it was after that I lay...
A Sue challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation.
Well, it was, like not a word coming out. It's very odd. It's like my words.
It was a cracking story, though.
I have no idea who the hell Basher Biggs was. That was coming out of some part of my brain I haven't been in before.
But we're very grateful you brought it to the table tonight.
Thank you.
Right, Tony, correct challenge?
Sue.
It was Sue, I'm
Sue
afraid.
got in
Sue,
before.
correct challenge, yes. There are 13 seconds still available, Sue. Conkers starting now.
What I like to do when playing Conkers is find a small piece of concrete, spend an evening varnishing it brown, and then smash the hell out of any schoolchild that challenges me. After all, what is a conker?
So Sue Perkins was again speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point and has increased her lead over the other three. They are all equal in second place. Andy Hamilton, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is the Post Office Tower. Can you tell us something about that edifice in this game starting now?
If you are wandering through the streets of the West End, having possibly imbibed a few too many lagers, how blessed you are to have the wonderful landmark that is the Post Office Tower. Or
Tony, you challenge.
Well, it's not contingent on having had lager. It's there all the time.
He didn't actually say it's contingent on having
He said,
lagers.
if you happen to be walking through the West End with a few pints of
That was an
lager,
example.
Yeah, but you can be walking
then you
through
have
with-
the Post Office Tower.
You can
Well, you
walk-
have the Post Office Tower if you have a hot milk, which is my favourite bedtime drink.
Finally!
it's just an example, wasn't
no,
it?
it is
Nicholas?
quite right. It doesn't matter whether you've had a few lagers or a glass of milk. He was still wandering through the West End and coming towards the Post Office Tower.
I don't like the way this is
I
going.
don't think... I don't think it was deviation. So, Andy, benefit of the doubt, you have this point for that. And 48 seconds still available. The Post Office Tower starting now.
The Post Office Tower, as I will continue to call it, towers over the streets of London.
Tony, challenge.
A repetition of London.
Oh, yes, London came in before. So
That's because I'm from London, innit?
Cheeky chappy.
Yeah.
London.
So you came in first there, Tony, and you've got 42 seconds. Tell us something about the Post Office Tower starting now.
I think there used to be a restaurant at the top of the Post Office Tower that revolved. And if you go there now, lager-ridden or not, you can't go...
Andy, challenge.
I've never been ridden by lager. I'm not sure. Can he be lager-ridden? I'm not sure he can. Lager-soaked, possibly. Deviation from...
The main thing is that we know that you've never been lager-ridden. That's all we
I
wanted
do
to
think
know.
that it was deviation from English as we understand it.
Yes.
So, Andy, 32 seconds are available. You tell us something about the Post Office Tower starting now.
I've always felt that the Post Office Tower would make a magnificent setting for a disaster movie. And, of course, the Goodies made a famous skit where a large white kitten pushed the tower over, causing chaos and much amusement amongst Graham Garden, Tim Brooke Taylor, Bill Oddie, and I wish there were more Goodies. And then
Right, what's your
I got
challenge?
in first.
Who got in first? We all got in.
We all got in, yeah.
No, but whoever's light infinitesimally earlier comes on, and it was Tony's light came on first.
Oh, very good. That's okay.
So what is your challenge?
Repetition of Goodies.
Oh, Goodies, yes, indeed, yes. And anyway, Tony, correct challenge, 12 seconds. The Post Office Tower starting now.
The Post Office Tower was built in the 60s and it was a magnificent edifice lighting up the way.
Giles
A
challenge.
repetition of edifice. We had
Yes.
that earlier when he was being appalled by the edifice that was...
No.
Yes.
No way I've said edifice tonight.
You've said
I was so proud that I'd said it for the first time.
You've been edifice-ridden
I
since
tell you
you
what,
arrived. We've heard of
I
them.
bet you 1,000 quid that I didn't say edifice before.
I think it was...
Why don't we split it and I'll concede? Take 500 and I'll concede the point.
I think it was Andy who said edifice. Yes.
It was Andy. It was Andy.
It should have been.
It was Andy channeling Tony. Yeah.
Tony, I'm with you. You have another point. You have 4 seconds. The Post Office Tower starting now.
The Post Office Tower was put there by a man wearing a hat.
So Tony was speaking then as the whistle went. Gained an extra point. What's happened to the situation now then? Sue Perkins is still in the lead, 1 ahead of Tony Hawkes and a few ahead of Andy Hamilton and Gyles Brandreth. And Gyles, we're back with you to begin. Red sky at night. Would you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
Well, among the tribute bands that I have been part of was one for the Andrews Sisters, the Ink Spots, and then a group called Blue. We called ourselves Red, thinking it was a better name. Sky also was part of it.
Sue challenge.
Called Blue, we called ourselves.
And called.
Called up.
Call and called.
You said called ourselves, we called.
C-A-L-L and then C-A-L-L-E-D. £1,000 apparently seems to be the amount.
Called Blue, we called ourselves.
We called ourselves Blue.
Called ourselves.
No.
Giles, I think you were bluffing very cleverly then. So, Sue, benefit of the doubt. And you have a point. And, of course, and there are 49 seconds. Red Sky at Night, starting now.
Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. Red sky in the morning, global warming. Red sky in the afternoon, run, it's a nuclear apocalypse. These are the things my father taught me just before he went to the institution. We've no idea where he is now, but he was full of such wise and worthy pieces of wisdom. It's true, if you look at the sky at night, you have a vague idea as to the meteorological conditions one might experience on the morrow. For example, the mackerel patterning of clouds would potentially portend a mixed set of blessings. Light rain, potential sunny spells.
You know, I understand that times are hard and that professionally we seek out any opportunity we can, but I do resent Sue taking time out to audition as a weather girl in the middle of the game.
So have you got a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
No, that was just me exercising moral authority.
I enjoyed it.
Well, we enjoyed your interruption, Andy. I don't think it was strong enough for a bonus point.
You don't like my moral authority, no.
I love it.
That happens everywhere I go. When I try and police the streets as a vigilante, people just ignore me.
I think you need to wear the outfit, though, to get the full...
Yeah.
Just a pair of tights won't go amiss. Come on, treat yourself.
Sue, on with the show. An incorrect challenge.
Great, because I've got a lot more to say about the weather. Log in.
14 seconds available, starting now.
Red skies often appear in the evening. Dusk is falling.
Tony challenge.
A repetition of appear.
Yes, you did mention appear before.
Possibly,
Sue.
yes.
So, Tony, you got
Lord
in
Sue.
with...
Is it over now?
Still 10 seconds to go. Red Sky at Night with you, Tony, starting now.
I heard the expression in Liverpool, red sky at night, shepherd's delight, red sky in the morning, Warrington's on fire.
Andy, you challenge.
That's repetition, because I heard Tony do that joke in 1984.
Andy, on this occasion, I can genuinely say you deserve a bonus point for that.
I should get a bonus point for waiting that long.
Because you get an incorrect challenge. We enjoyed it very much. But you've got 2 seconds to go only, Tony, on Red Sky at Night, starting now.
Red sky at night.
Right, so what is the situation? Sue Perkins and Tony Hawks are now equal in the lead. A few points ahead of Andy Hamilton and Gyles Brandreth in that order. And Tony, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is Harvest Festival. 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
The best thing about Harvest Festival, which I believe has been going since pagan times, happens on a Sunday close to Harvest Moon, which is an album by Neil Young that the Druids were very keen on, is the fact at school you get to take in all the food that's going off in your kitchen and give it to the teacher to give to the poor people of the world.
Giles, you're all challenging, but Giles came in first.
Give. Repetition of give.
Yes, that's right, Giles.
Can't have too much giving.
37 seconds are still available, Giles.
What a bleak view of Christianity that was.
Basically a fridge dump.
Giles, the subject is Harvest Festival. 37 seconds starting now.
My tribute bands having failed, I started my own group called Harvest Festival. My Black Sabbath tattoo suited it so well. While dressed as a pumpkin, we would rock and roll around the wonderful collection of old baked bean tins that we were taking to the church that particular Sunday as we celebrated this extraordinary tradition that is known as Harvest Festival. The vicar, shortly indeed before his arrest, was confined to quarters and asked us to lay loaves and fishes in the hope that he might be able to recreate that extraordinary miracle that took place pre-Harvest Festival days back in the Sea of Galilee.
So, Giles Brandreth, who then speaks as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. He's moved forward, and we are now moving into the final round. And I'm afraid Giles and Andy are trailing a little. I don't think they can make it up. But in the lead at this moment, Sue Perkins and Tony Hawks are equal there. A few points ahead of the other two. It's still anybody's contest, if you're interested in the points. And to begin, Sue Perkins, it's your turn. Life on Mars. Tell us something about that subject if you can. Starting now.
Mars is known as the Red Planet after a visit Ken Livingstone made there in the late 1980s. It has thin atmosphere, a little like Croydon of my youth.
Giles' challenge.
I'm just protecting Sue. Any possible visit to Croydon now?
No, they'd love it.
Oh, do they?
They know I love a bit of it.
Really?
And it's factually true. The atmosphere in Croydon is just a little thinner. It's got a slightly higher pump of nitrogen, a slightly smaller percentage of oxygen.
It's one of the richest places I know.
So, Giles, what is your challenge within the rules?
Deviation from the facts.
How dare you?
Croydon is not got thin atmosphere. It's awful. We've castigated Warrington. We've lost the audience there. We're now losing them in Croydon.
Hold on, Giles. There was nothing offensive about Warrington in what I said.
No. And I'm from Croydon, and I would kill anybody who dares to offend that hallowed place. How dare you
All I can tell you is that I think the atmosphere throughout the whole of the Greater London area is very much the same. So it's an incorrect challenge, Giles.
No.
Yes.
But if it's very much the same, forgive me, if it's very much the same, then it won't be thinner.
Croydon's in Surrey. Croydon is technically in Surrey.
Sue, incorrect challenge. You have another point. You have 47 seconds. Life on Mars, starting now.
I believe Life on Mars is one of David Bowie's finest singles, coming as it does from the album Hunky Dory, a seminal band.
Tony, you challenge
Yeah, so
first.
hesitation.
Hesitation, yes.
Just
trip up
gibberish.
over words,
That's good.
38 seconds are still available, Tony. Life on Mars, starting now.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair were, in fact, the lyrics of the very same song that Sue mentioned just now. Life on Mars by David Bowie. I agree it was a classic. I can practice saying seminal as long as I like, but it was one of his finest works. No question about it. He may have just slapped down the lyrics and mixed them all up on bits of paper and all.
Andy challenge.
I think there was the lyrics earlier.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. Yes, right.
Yes.
Well, listen, Andy. And you've got 13 seconds still available. Life on Mars, starting now.
Life on Mars was also a very fine TV series about a policeman who travelled back in time. One of those programme ideas that I sat watching my TV listening...
Giles challenge.
A repetition of TV.
Yes,
Yes.
you mentioned TV before.
God, he's
and
got
so, Giles, you've got him 2 seconds to go. Life on Mars, starting now.
Living on a chocolate bar will eventually kill you because...
So, with no more time, let me give you the final score. Andy Hamilton, who hasn't played the game before, did extraordinarily well and came in a brilliant 4th place. But he was only 1 point behind a man who's often excelled in this game, and that was Giles Brandreth. He was only 1 point ahead. But 3 points ahead of Giles. Very fair. Equal in the lead were Tony Hawks and Sue Perkins. So congratulations to our joint winners. So it only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Tony Hawks, Sue Perkins, Andy Hamilton and Giles Brandreth. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, and of course blown her whistle with great style. And we're grateful to the audience here at the Shaw Theatre. We're grateful to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we are indebted to these players here. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the audience here, thank you. And to our listeners, tune in again at the same time when we play Just a Minute! Yes. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, dynamic personalities who this week are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, and seated on my left, Janey Eclair and Josh Widdicombe. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me keep the score, and she will blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show this week with Sheila, and the subject is caravanning. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Caravanning is something that my family enjoys a great deal. When I was in my 20s and started earning a bit of money, I bought myself a tiny caravan, drove down a track on the coast at a place called Gookmere Haven, and left it on the side there. Every week after the show on Saturday night, I would get on my Lambretta, put my cat in a basket on the pillion, and drive down to this haven that I loved being in the country. The smell of honeysuckle still reminds me of that. When my parents retired, they went to live in a mobile home on a camping site.
Janey, you challenged.
Deviation. I don't think she should have put her parents in a mobile home. I think she should have welcomed them into her own house like a proper loving daughter. She has deviated from her duty.
I couldn't say caravan again.
I was waiting for 56 seconds to elapse.
Janey, you may have a professional point there, or even a personal point, but, I mean, she wasn't technically deviating from the subject of caravanning, so I can't really give it to you.
Maybe I could just have a point.
Give her a point, because it was a good point she made.
I'm new to this. Is that how it works? Do we just ask? I'll have three, please.
Josh, if you want to be really inventive, yeah, I'm very happy to give out bonus points to people.
OK.
Right. I'll give you one later if you like.
The investigation continues.
I did mean a bonus point, of course.
Of course,
right.
yeah.
Sheila, an incorrect challenge, so you get a point for that. Keep the subject. 18 seconds on caravanning.
18 seconds?
18 seconds, yes.
Starting now.
I will now go on to my sister, who was a variety artist, and instead of staying in theatrical digs, she also went caravanning from place to place.
Repetition of place.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
One of those sort of literary things you say, and it doesn't work in just a minute. And this time you've got to miss 6 seconds to go, Paul.
Oh, 6 seconds.
And you've got caravanning starting now.
When I bought my first caravan, I looked it squarely in the eye and said, me and you are going to be friends. We started heading towards Cornwall.
Josh, we'd like you to begin the next round. Ooh, Guy Fawkes. Will you tell us something about Guy Fawkes in this game, starting now?
Obviously, we all know Guy Fawkes is primarily famous for blowing up or attempting to explode the Houses of Parliament. However, I see his main crime as leading to 32 years of my dad's home fireworks displays. These will start with my dad producing the...
Janey, you challenge.
Well, only because he's got to learn. For all I know, he might have two dads.
Yeah.
But that would be dad and stepdad. Or mummy's friend.
That is what she calls him, yes.
Now
But it
you
was
will
a
see,
repetition of the word dad, so...
you'll see now that the girls on the show are mean.
No, she wasn't mean. She let a lot of things go until we got there. Well done, Josh. You You went for 41 seconds.
I didn't go for 41 seconds.
No.
No.
41 seconds left.
41
Oh,
seconds
41 seconds left. I was going to say. There's patronising and then there's patronising.
No, you went for 18 and a half seconds, which is very good for a first time, yeah. I'm sorry, John.
I honestly didn't think it was possible to burn up on the radio.
I'm sorry, that did sound very patronising, but it wasn't meant that way, because I welcome you on, because I think you're absolutely delightful. Now, let's get on with the show. Janey, you had a correct challenge. 41 seconds are available. Tell us something about Guy Fawkes, starting now.
The other Guy Fawkes was a member of the notorious Cray gang who went around terrorising the East End with a wooden chip fork. Often these implements would be found in the gutter, covered in the red stuff. Blood or ketchup? No.
Paul challenge.
I'm not sure we had wooden chip forks at the time of the Cray twins.
I didn't really know what a chip fork is.
No. Well, you know when you're round the back of the bins?
Yeah.
Looking for dinner. No, a chip fork is it's a wooden little fork that you eat chips with.
I think they were around in the 1950s.
Oh, right, OK.
Anyway, it was an incorrect challenge, Janey.
Thank you.
Yes.
You get a point for that, and you have 22 seconds still available. Guy Fawkes, starting now.
Let's get back to the original one. Yes, that night is celebrated on the 5th of November. We lock our dogs under the stair cupboard and write our names in the night sky with that wand covered in sparkly stuff. They're called sparklers. Catherine wheels that are nailed to the garage door occasionally spin off and take your Auntie Eileen.
So at the end of that round, Janey and Claire were speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and she has taken the lead at the end of the round. And Janey, we'd like you to begin the next round. It's your turn. I didn't know if you know anything about cricket, but what we've got here is what I like about cricket. Tell us what you know, starting now.
What I like about cricket can be written on the end of an umpire's stump. There is nothing that...
Josh, challenge.
There's no such thing as an umpire's stump.
No, that's quite right.
No.
Well, let me tell you,
Unless...
I've been round the back of the pavilion with a number of umpires, some of whom had stumps.
So, Josh, correct challenge. You have 52 seconds available. What I like about...
Oh, it's not so nice now, is it, Janey?
Off you go, Josh.
What I like about cricket, starting now.
I think 10cc put it best. I've just realised what I've done. Paul Merton's actually got his head in his hands.
Yeah.
You've got 9 letters in. 10. No, 6.
I must be fair to Janey, anyway, she loves it.
Oh, was it Janey as well?
You fool.
So 49 seconds are available, Janey, for you to continue, if you can, on what I like about cricket, starting now.
I like the sandwiches, egg and cress, salmon, they're nice. I once went to Lord's, what a dump. The place stinks of damp and the furniture is something...
Sorry, what I like about cricket is the subject, and we're talking about the damp.
Yeah, all the horror things. And Deviation Laws is the most historic place you could go to in
Smells
the
of
world.
damp, Nicholas. Terrible furniture and smells of damp.
Perhaps it was raining at the time.
No, they had had a flood, she admitted.
Right. Are you off rivers for the same reason?
So, Paul, correct challenge. 38 seconds available. What I like about cricket, starting now.
Well, the recent Ashes Test matches between England and Australia will go down in living memory as perhaps the greatest ever played. Who can remember the final day? I can, for a certain fact. When Nicholas Parsons walked out to face the Australian fast attack, people said, surely we can't put this batsman in now. But they found out that somebody had been drugged in the dressing room. Alistair Cook, the England team captain, was found in a lock-up garage, and in walked NP.
Josh, challenge.
Repetition of England.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So, Josh, you've got 11 seconds. Tell us something about what I like about cricket, starting now.
I admire any sport in which it is acceptable to wear knitwear, particularly cream knitwear. You wouldn't get a...
It's one of the more common words that crops up as a mistake.
I can't believe I've fallen into the trap of double knitwear.
You do illustrate what a difficult game it is.
I do. I'll be
game.
honest, I was on such a high from buzzing on Paul Merton that my head was in the clouds. I just couldn't concentrate.
Jenny, you challenge first.
Oh, it was wear, knitwear, knitwear.
No, it was repetition.
Double knitwear, yeah.
Double knitwear. And there's only 4 seconds to go. What I like about cricket, Jenny, starting now.
What a glorious sight, a summer's afternoon on a village green. Young...
So Jenny Claire's doing very well. Another point for speaking as the whistle went, and she's increased her lead. Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is Paddington.
Paddington.
60 seconds as usual, starting now.
He'd arrived from Peru. He didn't know anyone. He had a jar of marmalade under his arm, a duffel coat and a funny little hat. Paddington Bear walked into our lives back in the 1950s, written by an author called Michael Bond, who is still with us, and has recently been turned into a film, The Bear, Not the Man That Wrote the Books.
Sheila challenge.
I was going to say that. You corrected yourself.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
Oh, really?
So what's your challenge, Sheila?
No, I was going to challenge that Paddington, that the film, no, something...
I agree with that challenge.
Yeah. No, you corrected yourself.
bear?
You said the bear, not the man.
Yes, I did,
The man
yes.
was made into a film,
Yes,
not
yes.
the bear.
So it was incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
And Paul still has a subject, and there are 44 seconds available. Paddington, starting now.
Deep underneath platform 4 is a small commune that mainly...
Sheila.
I feel I couldn't talk about it. Too secret.
He hesitated before
Yes,
he
he
went on.
did. So, Sheila, you've got Paddington.
Yeah.
And there are 38 seconds available, starting now.
I love Paddington Station, built or designed by Brunel, of which there is a tiny little statue, but further along on platform 1, there's a marvellous same thing by somebody called Jagger, of a First World War soldier reading a letter. And a dear friend of mine devised a thing for the celebration, if you like to put it that way, of the first... Oh, dear.
Oh, Paul, you challenged
Sadly,
first.
hesitation, but it was going very well.
You were going down a route which was difficult to sustain. Well done, Sheila. 8 seconds are still available, Paul. Paddington, starting now.
As I looked into the eyes of this small creature that had travelled all the way from South America, I realised we had something in common. We were both drunk.
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went with other points in the round, does move forward. He's one behind Jenny Claire and just ahead of Sheila Hancock and Josh Widdicombe in that order. And Sheila, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is a day trip to Blackpool. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I can't necessarily say I went on a day trip to Blackpool, but I have played there many times, so I can advise you what to look out for. At one time, the people in the north used to have something called Wakes Week, and everybody went to Blackpool on an event, to the fun fair, to ride donkeys, but above all, the beautiful Tower Ballroom, watching everybody doing Strictly Come Whatever, because I can't repeat the word that they were doing. However, it is also architecturally very interesting. I used to go there in the 50s when it was at its peak, but then people started going abroad.
Jenny challenge.
People. Repetition of people.
Did I say
You talked
people
about
twice?
the people earlier
Did
on.
Right.
Sheila.
But it was beautiful. It was conjuring up images of that glorious
No,
ballroom.
don't save it.
There's a generous player of the game. Jenny, your correct challenge. You've got him with 14 seconds to go. A day trip to Blackpool, starting now.
Paddle your feet in the brown sea, eat fish and chips.
Sheila
No,
challenge.
I won't have that. It's not brown. It's... No. used to be, but it's now being categorised as one of the cleanest beaches in England, I think. I don't be quite wrong, but I'm going to say it is.
I'm from Lytham St Anne's.
I know.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Hang on.
Well, that
hang
doesn't
on.
make it brown.
In the course of this programme, you grew up over
Oh,
abroad.
right,
You're
Paul.
from the north. Oh, no, that is the north, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just along the road from Blackpool.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I know.
But no, but you don't, because I don't. I'm sorry.
But
Anybody agree with me that the sea is not brown? If anything,
I
it's black.
Most important person to agree with you is me, Sheila. No, the sea is not brown. I worked up there in summer season in the 60s, and I stayed at Lytham St Anne as well, in a very snobbish area, but very nice.
It's very posh.
Only the bit near the sand, because the sand's so churned up that it looks brown.
No,
but it is a beautiful...
He's made a judgment. I'm sorry. It was not brown.
Actually, I'd like to agree with Sheila that it is a beautiful, blue, clean beach, because I'd quite like some gigs there. There's a very nice theatre for the brand.
All right. 9 seconds, Sheila. A day trip to Blackpool, starting now.
The particular...
Paul.
Well, it's no wonder, really, she hesitated after it took a while. Yeah, hesitation, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. 8 seconds available, Paul. A day trip to Blackpool, starting now.
As you walk along the beach and look up towards the tower, you can see what embellishes... That's a new word. A new word.
Sheila, you challenge.
Embellishment.
Embellishes.
I think he meant embellishment.
I did.
You?
I meant something. I didn't mean what I said.
Deviation from the English language as we
Absolutely.
understand it. And Sheila, you cleverly got him with 1 second to go. Oh. It is still a day trip to Blackpool, starting now.
Frank Matcham.
So, Sheila Hancock speaking of the whistle. When gain that extra point? Oh, it's all very close. She's 1 point behind Paul Merton. He's 1 point behind Janey Clare. And they're all a few points ahead of Josh Widdicombe. But Josh, not to worry.
Don't worry.
You're getting points and you're contributing well. And we love having you on the show.
Good.
And they're giving you very historical subjects. We've had Guy Fawkes and now we've got Agincourt for you.
Yeah. The comeback starts here.
Well, show your historical knowledge. Agincourt, 60 seconds, starting now.
I remember on the day in my history class when the teacher said, "Today we are going to learn about Agincourt." And I thought to myself, I won't need to know this when I'm a grown-up and have a job. Now I am regretting that very much.
Jenny, challenge.
A slight hesitation, but I think in some respects we should give him the benefit of the doubt.
I will.
No one else really wants this round.
Is that because I've been given the benefit of the doubt after just saying that I know nothing about the subject I've now got to go on and talk about?
Exactly, right. And go on, don't pause, take any breaths.
Okay.
Don't say knitwear.
I can say it once.
You can say it once now, yeah, that's it.
Josh, you've got a point because of an incorrect challenge. You have 45 seconds still available. Agincourt, starting now.
The 100 Years' War, that was something to do with Agincourt, wasn't it? I know that that didn't last the amount of time that it claims to have lasted.
No, Sheila, it's not.
Lasted.
Last and lasted.
Drawing you all in.
Josh, another point to you. 36 seconds still available. Agincourt, starting now.
Bows and arrows were the main weapon used at Agincourt. I would have dodged out the way or put on something to stop it, like a shield or knitwear. Sorry, I didn't know that you weren't meant to pause
Well,
for.
it has to be a hesitation.
Yeah, I paused for the last one, it was a mistake.
You can't.
And I've learnt another valuable lesson.
You have.
No, but you weren't to know that in this game you can't pause for laughter. You have to ride the laugh.
If this is turned down again and I get to the end of this minute, it will be the biggest injustice of all time.
No, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Now, that's what I call being patronised. That's it in a nutshell.
Because you've not played the game before, you weren't to know. It's instinctive for a comedian, if he gets a big laugh, to pause.
I know, I've done it 3 times previously in my career.
So, Josh, I can't do it again, but you have it this time. A point to Josh And 23 seconds, Agincourt, Josh, starting now.
But who took part in Agincourt, I hear you say? Well, it was one of the big two. England and France, for they wanted to... yeah, fair enough.
Sheila challenge, yes.
Hesitation.
That was a hesitation, Joe. It was England and France.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Well, that's something.
They got through to the final, didn't they?
And about 5,000 or 6,000 Frenchmen were killed, and only about 100 Englishmen.
Oh.
It's an amazing battle. 1415.
Wish you told me this 2 minutes ago.
We wish you had told us this 2 minutes ago.
Sheila, correct challenge, 13 seconds available. Agincourt, starting now.
I'm trying to remember the famous quote. The gentlemen of England now abed will curse the day they were not there. Or something like that. Henry VIII. Henry V.
Paul challenge.
Well, repetition of Henry.
And the wrong quote.
And the wrong quote.
And the wrong Henry.
Will feel themselves accursed.
Yes. And so, Paul, you've got him with 1 second to go.
1 second to
go. You got your own back.
So, Paul, Agincourt, 1 second to go, starting now.
I once got me Agincourt.
So again, that round, Paul Merton was then speaker of the whistle. When gained that extra point, and he's increased his lead only by one ahead of Jenny Clare, one ahead of Sheila Hancock, one ahead of Josh Widdicombe in that order. And Jenny, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is my family tree. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
My family tree is rather stunted because my maternal grandfather was an orphan and grew up in an orphanage in Lancashire. Rumour had it that 2 of his aunts were ladies of the night, but high class, no riff-raff, only took men with their own carriages. But apart from that, we know very little. My mother is going to kill me for having revealed this on Radio 4. On the other side, it's mostly shrapnel and show business. Once a grandmother was a tiller girl. There were also some pram shops that we owned that no longer...
Sheila challenge.
Did she repeat grandmother?
No, she
No,
said pram
maternal.
shops.
Wasn't your grandmother a prostitute? And
No. Sheila, can we just leave it there? Can we? Not all of them were prostitutes.
The one that only met with men who had
No,
carriages.
it was my maternal grandfather's aunts who were said to be a little easy with their virtue.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So an incorrect challenge, Jenny. 15 seconds are still available. My family tree, starting now.
My other nana was a mill girl.
Josh challenge.
I choked, Josh, I choked.
She choked.
She choked.
It was a hesitation. It was
a hesitation, yes. So, Josh, you've got him with 13 seconds to go. Tell us something about my family tree, starting now.
When I was a child, my dad told us that we had something amazing in our family tree. We had a man called Sabin Baring Gould, and he had achieved something astonishing. He had written the lyrics...
To?
Well, we were told he'd written the lyrics to Onward Christian Soldiers, but then it turned out to be a lie.
Oh.
I actually answered in a pub quiz about it.
Oh.
And that was how I found out it was wrong.
What was his name? Sabin?
Baring Gould.
Baring Gould. What
that name's familiar from something.
There's another Baring Gould that's like a Sherlock Holmes historian.
Ah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. And also they're the people that used to run Baring's Bank, so...
Baring's
Nick Leeson has a lot to answer for.
Right, can we get on with just a minute?
Yeah.
Yep. They asked me!
Oh, it's interesting.
I know they did. Right, but Josh, you were speaking then as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And we are moving into the final round. You're a lovely audience. We appreciate you. Right. And it's an interesting situation because Jenny Clare and Paul Merton are equal in the lead, but only 2 points behind. Equal are Sheila Hancock and Josh Widdicombe. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is Kipling. Tell us something about Kipling in this game, starting now.
A man famous for writing poems on cakes. There was a young man from Peru who tried to make a gâteau, and he had a bit of a mutter, but he had no butter, and he didn't know what to do. This is one of his famous limericks that were published all over the...
Sheila,
Can you
challenge.
repeat limericks?
Limerick and limericks.
No, you talked about...
Did I say
poems.
limerick before? I don't know if I did, actually. I said poem, didn't I?
You said poem the first time.
Yeah,
poem.
I think so.
And then it was limericks that came in. So an incorrect challenge, Paul. 47 seconds still available. Kipling, starting now.
Rudyard Kipling, one of the great authors of Victorian society. He was considered a magnificent writer when his book The Jungle Ditto came out, and people said, this is a beautiful portrayal of what it must be like to live somewhere which is overcrowded and overrun by wild animals, as indeed was the place where Mowgli, the man-cub, grew up. He, of course, was related... Oh, no. Run out of words.
I was just rescuing him.
Kipling is with you, Sheila, and you've got 23 seconds if you want them, starting now.
I had an aunt who used to say, I'm going to have a little Kipling, which was another word for a doze, a rest, 40 winks. An elongation of the word kip, obviously, but I thought it was rather sweet. He wrote the poem If, which actually, although it's a bit portentous, is a very good recommendation for how to live your life. I got it out eventually.
Yeah.
Recommendation.
Paul, you
Well, there was a slight sort of hesitation.
Yeah, go on.
There was a slight
It was,
hesitation.
I'm afraid, yes.
But you've got him with 1 second to go.
Well done. That's the game.
Well, it was correct, though, so we give it to you, Paul. Kipling, 1 second, starting now.
Battenberg.
Well, that final challenge, Paul, wouldn't have made any difference to the final score. But, it's very interesting. Josh Widdicombe, who's not played the game before, came in a very marvellous 4th place. We were only 1 point behind Sheila Hancock, who was only 1 point behind Jenny Eclair, and she was 3 points behind this week's winner, Paul Merton. So we have no more time to play Just a Minute. We do hope you've enjoyed this particular edition. Congratulations to Paul, and we thank the other players, Sheila Hancock, Josh Widdicombe and Jenny Eclair. A round of applause for them, for their contributions. I thank Haley Sterling for her invaluable support. We're indebted to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're also grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons and the team, goodbye. Tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute.